Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Divulgence. Today, I have criminal defense attorney and certified forensic toxicologist out of Texas, Tad Nelson, on the show. Tad, how are you doing today, my friend? Thanks so much for being here.
I am good, Jordan. Thanks so much for having me, man. Looking forward to it.
So, did you enjoy your holidays over the past few weeks?
I did. I'm a 60-year-old man with an 8-year-old child. Holidays have become a different thing than they
Amazing.
were, before I was when I was in my 40s. So they're immensely more fun again. Now it's like you're a kid again. You're experiencing the same things again. So I
That's
was
amazing.
really late to the kid party, but loving every minute of it.
Good for you, man. Congratulations. What's in your part of Texas? I mean, you guys don't get any snow down there. That's like amazingly rare, right?
It's like every 5 years.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it's not that rare. Okay, every
No,
5
no,
years.
we had it when we had it on Christmas Day. I think when she was 2 or 3.
It's so much more special for a place where you guys live to get snow, especially on Christmas Day. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. Can you maybe walk us through a little bit about yourself, your experiences, and some stuff like that before we start digging our teeth into what's going on in the world?
Sure. I mean, I own a boutique law firm. I have 3 other lawyers that work for me. I'm down here in the Galveston, Texas, kind of Houston, Texas region. I'm right between them. I'm in League City. It's 25 miles to Houston, 24 miles to Galveston. Uh, I pretty much do about 50% criminal law, about 30% family, 20% personal injury. Um, I opened the doors of my shop June 1st, 1994, after working as an assistant DA for 3 years. It was funny how I got to be a DA. Now that's a great story because I originally, when I was at University of Texas, I was I was in the business school. I was an accounting major, and I always thought I'd go to law school, but I never really realized I had a thing for the courtroom. I liked numbers. I was always a little bit of a number person. I thought I'd go get my CPA, then go through law school and end up doing some kind of you know, financial planning, tax structuring, different things of that nature, probate stuff. And I got out of law school, started working for a big probate firm in downtown Houston. I was also at the same time getting a master's in tax law from University of Houston. And I'd always known the elected DA in Galveston, and I was literally losing my mind. I was so bored. And just on a whim, one day I came home, I was married, and said, "Hey, I hate what I do. I want to get in a courtroom." And, Mike Garino, the elected DA, always told me I could have a job. So I called him one night and said, "Mike, I hate what I do. Can I come work for you?" Gave up about, my new salary was about a third of what I was making in downtown Houston, and went to work down, in Galveston as a low assistant DA for, I think at the time it was like 33,000 a year, in 1991.
Okay.
And, the rest has been history. I mean, I pretty much am one of those people that consider myself, I go to work every day. I mean, I have bad days like everybody, but I love what I do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, what are your? I mean, you mentioned the percentages of stuff that you take care of on your day to day, but what's your favorite areas of law? I mean, obviously, as I mentioned, you're into forensic toxicology, right? So, yeah, obviously, maybe I would assume criminal cases involving like DNA and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that goes, like I said, I went back, in the early 2000s, I went and got I didn't finish it, but I started a master's in information systems at University of Houston. Then in about 2013, I went back and I got a master's in forensic toxicology. I did it online, mostly online, from University of Florida. And you think about what I like. I mean, obviously I do a lot of DWI work, and that comes into a lot of blood analysis and a lot of toxicology in the blood. But also part of the forensic stuff of, like you were talking on the DNA stuff. there is a lot of science behind, the sexual assault cases and the injury to children cases, because the reason I got involved in this stuff and the reason I've always sought education is I just got so sick of the government bringing an expert to court. And so many times a juror will sit there when somebody says you're an expert, it doesn't matter what you say. They're going to buy it because, the judges, made it look like that's an expert. So I wanted to make sure two things. Number one, I wanted to know when I was hearing bullshit. That was the number one reason why I went and got the education, because if you don't realize it's bullshit, you don't even know to stand up and argue.
Absolutely.
But the second thing about when you really learn it, you know who to get to combat it. Because if you just let the government do their thing and roll over you, well, that's what they're going to do. But the two things I know when they're rolling over me, and I know who to go get to show the jury that they're not. So, that's where it's really come in good with being an expert, understanding the forensics and the toxicology. So I know how to get somebody to bring them to court, and I have a group of experts that I use a lot that I really enjoy bringing, that I have good relationship with, that can literally, at least put the government in check and not give them the leeway just to run amok.
Interesting. So what are some of your, specifically, maybe some of your favorite cases you've done, and have you done any, like, I guess what you would call like high profile cases or well-known cases?
Well, we just finished one over right before the holidays. It was a big deal only in the sense that, it wasn't like a celebrity or anything, but it was a case that got a lot of notoriety. Our client was intoxicated, crossed the street and ended up smashing head on with another, killed a person. There was a lot of push from the community, to see our kid go to jail for a long time. And we ultimately, put on a good case, showed that this was a good kid, good family, one mistake. And, he got probation. There was a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of, threats online, just stuff that just gets a lot of community notoriety. We had another, I do a lot of, as you can see, I do a lot of intox manslaughter cases. We had one a few years ago where our client had hit beach patrol, which is the lifeguards out on the Gulf. One of them had gotten hit by a car, and we defended her and ended up getting her probation. And again, they're not celebrities by any stretch, but these are just cases that get a lot of notoriety
in the community.
In the community, yes.
Gotcha. So, can you talk a little bit about your experience with dismantling faulty blood tests when it comes to DWI defenses? Is that something you've experienced a lot with?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, and that's just it. I mean, there's so many, people, it's so funny. Like, this isn't like when you go to the hospital. When you go to the hospital, they can take your blood and they can ultimately get a result, in no time, because what they're looking for in your blood is not forensics. It's not for a courtroom. It's basically to keep you alive, so they can do a quick test that doesn't have to pass forensic muster. So in a DWI case or something like that, the police come in there, they take the person to the emergency room or to the clinic, wherever they get the blood drawn. They have a kit that they make sure that if there's a swab, they make sure it doesn't have alcohol on it and all these kind of things. So there's a lot of prophylactic things that makes the blood, safe and fair to be tested. Okay. So, and then, then the blood gets sent to the lab by the officer, then it's stored at the lab, then it's, taken out by the chemist. So there really are, there's 7 or 8 steps before that blood ever gets, to a courtroom, wherever. That's why, if there's a DWI case tonight, for example, we won't know that blood value for 3 or 4 months,
Oh, really?
It has to go to the lab. It has to get sent off and things of that nature, or at least that's the way it is down here. I can't speak for everywhere. I can just speak for Texas and how DPS works down here. So it takes, 3 or 4 months to get it back. And then at that time, we get all the records. We can obviously see, the ultimate thing is you finish with a value, of what the blood, alcohol level is. And, you see the testing, but there's so much, more than that. There's, was it taken properly? Was it clean? Was the area clean? Was it stored properly? Was it transported properly? Is there a chain of custody? There's just so many different things. And that's, and then ultimately, and then the next thing is, most blood that's taken from a car wreck or any kind of DWI, sometimes is taken 2 or 3 hours after, maybe an hour and a half after. So then the next question comes when you get the person there. When you're convicted of DWI, you have to be above that legal limit at the time of driving. You'd be amazed at how many times you get the chemist on there and say, okay, you tested this blood. And what was the test? Well, the test is 1.21. Okay, we all know 0.08 is the legal limit. And you'll ask this chemist, can you tell me, can you tell this jury beyond a reasonable doubt that this person that was driving was intoxicated at the time of driving? And sometimes they'll go, no, I have no idea. I don't know where it was at that time. I only know it was this amount an hour and 45 minutes after. And then I can ask them questions like, it could have easily have been under that at the time of driving. And depending on the facts and depending on the values, there's often times where they go, absolutely, Mr. Nelson. I can tell you, I can think of a million situations where that blood alcohol level was below 0.08 at the time of driving. And see, that's not a DWI.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff, doing the forensics and then also doing the extrapolation and, using the extrapolation facts. I mean, you can, they've got to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. I sure don't. I'm looking for chaos. I'm just looking for things that might disrupt their case. Tie goes to us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. So let's start jumping into some different cases, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First of all, we'll get into some politics too, if that's okay. What are your thoughts? I wanted to ask you about some of the Trump trials, the ones that he went through. I think all of them were just before he took presidency. But what are your thoughts on Trump? Are you a Trump voter? Are you a Trump supporter? Anything you care to share on that? And
I'm not.
yeah.
I'm by no means a Trump supporter. It's funny. I always say, I'm down here in Texas, which I've got to be probably the only guest that you've ever had. The way my house is, I'm looking out at a lake. But some places, so we have a street that goes around. So I have my house, then there's a street, then there's my lake property. So I have to cross the street to get to the, but cars can go around. I'm one of the only people you probably ever had on this show that has walked out their front door and been able to witness a Trump boat parade. So,
Oh,
I've got
wow.
that. I've got that going for me.
That's interesting. Wow.
That's going to be my claim to fame. I'm about to put that on my casket, on my tombstone. But anyway, I'm not a Trump supporter by any stretch. My favorite thing to say is I'm not the only conservative down here in Texas, but I can fit them all in my pool.
Interesting. Because, I mean, the history of Texas has usually been pretty, if I'm not mistaken, it's been pretty red, has it not?
Oh yeah, they keep talking like it's going to purple. Well,
yeah,
very reddish purple. But it really makes no sense. But Trump really took the Hispanics, which has historically,
right.
been in the Democratic camp forever, and how he did that. And the thing that blows me away is so many of those, knowing that immigration and ICE and all this crap was coming, how these all people could just vote against their self-interest, and that's the craziest thing. I used to get all in an uproar about it and post, and that's the one thing I've really realized, and a lot of it's also changing my just changing my view on things because of having a daughter. You go back because my daughter was born July of 17, so Trump's in office then, and all the first one when he beat Hillary, when I was really you know, I mean, I
Did you support him at that point, or did you? Well,
I've never
you
supported
never
the man.
supported him? Okay.
I thought he was a farce from the get go, and I've always have, and you know, uh, I have, I didn't have anything good to say about him before, he was a candidate when he was just, kind of a
Some pretty
yeah, just
slumlord.
kind of a womanizing, you
Yeah.
know, kind of sack of shit businessman, you know, um, but yeah, I've never really supported him, and I I just don't, the thing that, and I have a lot of friends that do, and I just, just the fact that every single day he's always saying something negative about somebody, some American company, some person. I mean, there's so much dissension, and it's not getting better. And that's what I was trying to make. The point is, I'm just not as active with it anymore, just because, you just want to stay away from all this angst and this animus, and it's horrible. It really makes life horrible.
Yeah, it can take quite the toll on your mind as well. And it's good that you. I assume that you see friends that are Trump supporters, so it's good you're able to uh, keep politics out of shattering a friendship, because it seems like, especially over the definitely over the last 10 years or so, but even more so over the last 5, um, politics seems to be quite the nail in the coffin for relationships, family
Absolutely.
relations.
Right. It's gotten worse than religion. Exactly. I mean,
And oh
for the
yeah,
longest time,
way
religion
worse.
was the divider, but nowadays it's politics, and it's just, yeah, it's gotten horrible. There's so much dissension, there's so much just hatred. And I find myself, I'm like you, I'm all over social because that's how we do our business these days. And if you're not on social, you're not chasing the money well enough, to be honest. I mean, that's what's kind of weird, because I have a little bit of a computer background, and I understand marketing, you know, for the longest time I was a little bit resistant to get on social, but obviously once you start getting on social, you can change the whole marketing dynamic and what have you. But I really do cut people loose. I'll make some jokes about Trump, but I don't get into the weeds anymore. I used to live in them. Used to look forward to the discussion. And there was a time when the discussion was actually, it was reasonable, and it was,
Yeah,
it was fair, and it was just, just a debate. And then now it's just hate. And I find myself, you go to, I even got in on LinkedIn because, in theory, that's a place to go to get away from it. I just dropped some people this week on LinkedIn that are posting too much
is it
hatred.
really Is it leaking into LinkedIn? I've
Yeah.
never. Wow.
I saw some guys, put this nonsense about, giving up his white race card or some crap, uh some nonsense, and comments about Somalis, and I mean, just on LinkedIn. That's where we're literally, I was hoping that would be our last place to go and just do business and learn things and share things. You get it. I expect that nonsense from X and Instagram, and even Facebook to some extent. But man, you know social media has changed our world, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and social media, even though it's still quite a new thing, I mean, it's evolved. It evolved so much over a span of a few years, right? Um, and with recently with the transformation of things like memes and like trolling culture, and just being downright rude and ridiculous, and kind of putting your name on it. It's definitely turned the temperature up, I'd say,
Oh, absolutely. And I
especially
think,
politics
and
are involved.
yeah, like we were talking about earlier about, Andrew Tate, just some people are just looking to instigate. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's their whole marketing scheme. Their money flow is based on, I mean, it's funny. You go back, and I was thinking about this when I was preparing to talk to you. You look back, and if it could only be as, as bad as Howard Stern. I remember when he came out, 25
Yeah,
years ago, whatever,
right.
we always thought, God, this guy, man, he just wants to get in your face. And my God, he's mild now.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. For the most part, he's quite mild. Yeah.
Right. I mean, now the worst thing he does is have a stripper in there and says, "Hey, will you do the rest of this interview without your top on?"
Something
You
like
know?
that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, it's mind-boggling. Nowadays it is just all about hate and you know, and you know, and and like even the Charlie Kirk thing, people, Charlie Kirk said a lot of stuff I didn't agree with, but
Yeah.
you know what? He had a following. He had people that liked him. There, unfortunately, some nut, shot him. I mean, that's horrible. I don't care who you shoot. That's not good. That is
Nope.
not a good thing for the country. I mean, it's not a good way. You know, yeah. I mean, as I'll sit here and make the art. I mean, as much as the stuff that he used to say used to make me nauseous. I mean, he had every right to say it. And you know what? If I didn't like what he was saying, I didn't have to watch it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, but yeah, when and then he gets shot like that, and then it's all you hear about and all you have to think about for geez, it was a few weeks there where it felt like you just couldn't get away from it, and especially like the first few days, like it was hard just to get away from the assassination videos, which were
Mhm.
at least a couple of them were just absolutely disgusting and horrific. So
Right. No,
it's tough. You got to unplug sometimes because it's hard to get away with it with these algorithms, right?
They just keep looping it back, right? And the more venom that spews from it, the more you're going to see it.
Um, so backing up, what? You're probably familiar with the more recent, the lawsuits against Trump when I think, in between his presidency. So there's the New York hush money case, the Georgia election interference case, the U.S. federal election case, the classified documents case, the sexual assault lawsuits, the New York civil fraud lawsuit. So I remember a little bit about, like, they were kind of pushing them back consistently, and trying to decide whether or not they were going to go forward and which ones they were going to go forward with. And I remember that a lot of people were felt it a little odd with some of the ones that they were pushing with. And obviously the result was, I mean, I don't think, I mean, I think he just kind of had to pay some money in some of the case, like the hush money case. I think he just had to pay.
hmm Yeah,
And
pretty much every case that
right?
finally got to court, he lost.
Yeah.
The Letitia James case, the case, big fines there on his business doings. The one against the lady, what, I don't even remember her name. The one where he raped her and then badmouthed her. The one from he touched her funny in the Macy's changing room, and then what was that lady's name? I can't even remember her name. But God, there's so many of them. And then the Georgia thing, but the only ones that ever went away was once he got into power, and it wasn't, and he had Bill Barr get rid of the Mueller problem, and
Oh, and Eugene Carroll. That was the Eugene
yeah,
Carroll.
Eugene Carroll. Yeah, the Eugene Carroll one. She got huge amount of money, and then she got more money when he badmouthed her, when he defamed her afterwards.
Yeah,
He got
additional
too pathetic.
3.3 million
Yeah,
just for that additional.
yeah, it's just crazy.
I mean, let's see, what's Trump's? I mean, I'm sure you never know for sure, but let's see what his net worth is.
Oh, it's over billions now. It's grown 1,000 times since he went back in office this time.
Yeah, it's up to. Geez, yeah, it's up to over 7 billion now, likely.
Yeah. Well, he's killing it with his little crypto coins, and he's
Yeah, and he's got the Trump phone as if he's like
right.
Batman, and the Trump
He's
watch as if he's
yeah,
James Bond.
shaking everybody down. You
The
know,
alcohol, yeah, yeah. Because I
I mean,
mean, he's obviously, whenever the hell he does get out of office, uh, yeah, he's just gonna have all these. It just seems so novelty, and at this stage, anything you stick the Trump name on, I just feel like it's, even though it's purported to be like wealth and class and high quality, I just feel like you're not going to get a good product unless maybe you're going to like one of his hotels. But I mean, he did terrible with the school. Um I'm sure, I don't know, all there's tons of lawsuits from that.
huh,
I mean, the watches seem pretty cheap. I don't know about the alcohol. I haven't heard anything about the phones, but I mean, I mean, you're really gonna make a phone? Like, I can't see the Trump phone being any good. And then I don't know, he's got like a Trump credit card or something. He's got all, he just grifts everything. Just like
yeah,
you said, he's shaking everyone down, right?
yeah.
So,
It's the biggest grift in the history of our country. It's bizarre.
do you think do you think these I mean, do you think these lawsuits that we're talking about, do you think they essentially just amount to a slap on the wrist given his birth and
Well, but
given his situation now where he is? I mean, I don't think they're going to
well,
hurt him now at this point.
well, really, the only one that's really got him is the Eugene Carroll one. I mean, I think they're still doing appeals on the big fine out of New York. All the other ones are going bye bye because of politics now, and a DOJ is like his lynchman. I mean, I don't think there's anything that splashed on him except the Eugene Carroll stuff. Everything else has pretty much gone away. I know the New York thing is still in appeals, and that's probably I would imagine, the Supreme Court, if they have an opportunity to kick that, they probably will. So I don't think anything's splashing on him, and everything was legit. But but also on the other side of it, man, I hope it just goes away. I hope when because every pendulum's going to swing back, and Democrats are going to be back in power someday. And I hope they let it go and let's just move on and get a fresh start. Like an Etch a Sketch, just shake it up and let's just start over.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. That's something that more and more people are feeling like is the right thing. I mean, some people are want to take it to an extreme where it's like the point where Trump just completely destroys the country, and then the Democrats take over, and then they finish destroying the country, and then we start over. I mean, I hope it wouldn't come to that, right?
No,
But
I hope that's not what it is. I mean, but he is. I mean, DOJ is a joke right now.
uh, yeah,
Even Department of Defense is a joke. FBI is a joke. I mean, the leader at all three of those are three complete bozos. You know, um, I live down here. Hey, when I go down to court in Galveston, guess what I get to see? The Gulf of America. Are you kidding me? I was a lifeguard at the Gulf of Mexico. I guess I'm in a different place now. I don't know. It's just, yeah,
what
it's,
about I mean, yeah, so, like, he's so arrogant with those kind of moves. Like, I'll just say it, I fucking hate the idea of the, what is it, the Donald Trump and the John F. Kennedy Center for
yeah.
Performing Arts. That is just like, really, man? Why can't he build his own? you know like,
Well,
isn't he gonna get a library and all that stuff when he leaves? I mean,
yeah.
he doesn't have a library. I mean,
And
like,
he's going to build that albatross of a ballroom.
right, that's still
And
going. Yeah.
the thing is that will be built, and all the name stuff they're going to fix that. His name's not staying on anything 6 months
Does
after
he
he's out of
expect? Does he
office.
expect it to? Like, I
You know,
mean, like, he does. He does if, I guess he does if he thinks like, JD Vance is taking over the helm, or some sort of mega Republican or something, and enough time goes by, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's almost a given that if a Democrat takes over, like, they're going to start stripping that, like they were stripping statues and stuff years ago, right?
Yeah.
Even,
No,
even worse.
I agree. I mean, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it, and even with, with the JD Vance thing, which you bring that up, and that's another scary deal because you remember what, before Putin changed the law in Russia, he had to change his position, and then Medvedev took over, and Putin still ran it from from the sideline, and
Right.
you read enough crap out there, you hear that, like, they'll let, Trump go be the vice president,
Right.
and actually run the place, which I wouldn't hold it past him.
Right.
He's not going to go softly into that good night. That's not him.
And we'll get. I mean, we might as well jump into it now. With what's going on in Venezuela now, and some of the, some of the actions alone are just wild. But now that some of the comments and intended actions that are coming out of Trump's mouth and his people, it just makes the idea of him staying or some other crazy ideas. It just makes it seem more and more not only possible but plausible.
Yeah,
Like, it's just
and
wild.
maybe even probable.
They grabbed Nicolas Maduro, and I think a few Cubans got killed, but I mean, it sounded like it was a pretty clean operation. But just them to do it, the action itself, like, that's crazy. Like, that was just like, I had to like check myself when I first heard about that, because I was like, is this sounds so fake that it's wild. But no, it's real. I mean, what are your thoughts on the kidnapping and indictments on Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela?
Who cares about the indictments? I mean, that's not even the story here. I mean, because who was the guy a month ago? What was the other leader that he gave a pardon to? You got your computer there, but and that guy had more drug stuff than Maduro. So this has no. I mean, this is so not about drugs. But you know, but the thing is, I can't figure out. I don't think Trump can figure out exactly what it is about. I mean, it does seem like it could be a little bit just about the oil. Every time he gave a press conference the other, 4 days ago, he said oil 23 times. He said
Right.
the safety of the people 0 times, and granted, Maduro's a bad guy, but I can find you another 20 bad guys in the world that are worse than him, you know. And what's so funny, the craziest thing is, and the scariest thing is, we're the good guys. I mean, we're the guys on the side of right. And haven't we been bitching about what China's doing? They're building islands, in international water. They're threatening Taiwan.
Yeah.
Um, they're buddying up with Little Kim and Russia. I mean, all these bad things. Then we're not happy with we're not happy with Russia taking Ukraine, but now we're the same thing we've been bitching about. We're going to go down there and do the exact same thing we've been bitching about is now okay that we're doing it. Do you think this makes any of our security in this world, better for Americans? I've got 57 stamps on my passport. I guarantee you it's immensely less safe today than it was a month ago for me to travel. Any American to travel. Anywhere. There are people that used to look at us and say, "Oh God, you're American. How great is it to be an American, and how great your country, and God, is it just beautiful?" Texas, you hear about Texas, everybody thinks we all have cattle, wear big hats, we're all millionaires, everywhere you go in the world. God, is Texas just great? No, it's not. None of it's great. I mean, we're it's chaos and it's hateful. That's the problem.
It's going to just like the actions of Israel, I would say, is making things very hostile for Jews around the world. I feel like stuff like this is going to make it very difficult for Americans around the world
Oh,
in some
absolutely.
shape or form, you know.
Yeah, we're not, we're not crazy safe when we travel, you know. And yeah, I agree with you totally on what you're talking about, what's gone on in Israel, and that's problematic.
I
And
mean, yeah.
and that's, and that's the other craziest thing. You look at Gaza and the West Bank. I mean, you know, some of the restrictions of the Palestinians, I mean, and what they've had to bear, you know, it's crazy. Now, what went on what went on with them, killing everybody in October on that, 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. I mean, now that's just horrible. And I it's just absolute chaos over there.
And sorry, just going back, I totally forgot where the leader was from, but it was Panama. It was Manuel Noriega out of Panama,
Yeah.
who was kind of before.
Well, that was the one that got arrested, and he came down here. But
Yes.
Trump just pardons another leader from Chile, the one he pardoned literally 2 months ago on a drug deal. Look that up. He just pardoned somebody. I think it was from Chile. What drug dealer, dic, dictator did Trump pardon in the last 3 months? But literally, and had a much worse record than Maduro.
Juan Orlando Hernandez,
What country?
Honduras.
Yes, that's him.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that the hypocrisy of doing and again, there was probably some graft there, I mean, that's why
So,
everything that happens for money in this administration.
oh, for sure, for sure. So just to for myself and others, just a little recap on that. So in early December 2025, Trump pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras, who had been convicted in a U.S. federal court for drug trafficking and weapons charges. He was convicted in March 2024 for conspiring to import more than 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. He was serving a 45-year prison sentence at the time of his release. Trump's justification, he stated on Truth Social that Hernandez had been treated harshly and unfairly by the Biden administration. He claimed the prosecution was a political setup and that Hernandez was unfairly labeled a drug dealer because of his role as president.
Gosh, that sounds similar to another deal,
Huh.
doesn't it?
What's okay, wait, no, that must be what's going on now. I thought we were reading.
Right.
Yeah, man, what is good? That's wow. And it's crazy how because things just move so fast these days, right? So the amount of time that things can happen, and I mean, not everyone, like people like us, obviously we don't forget, and people who listen to the show, or other people who do shows like mine, they don't forget. But I feel like the average voter and just the average Joe, they forget, and it's just on to the next headline, on to the next news cycle. And especially, I mean, we've been hearing about the last few months, especially about distractions to the Epstein files. Well, this is a huge distraction, right? So,
Mhm.
I mean, just a reminder to people, like, do not forget about the Epstein files and the Epstein case, because that's still amazingly important. But this is huge. This is
Well, that's
huge.
just it. Every day there's another story. I mean, it is shocking. It's like if you ever listen to their theories or any of their write-ups, the Stephen Miller, you
Right. Yeah.
talk about the scariest human being on the planet. I mean, the whole flood the zone. I mean, let's just say they do 7 crazy ass things a day. Well, you can stop 6 of them, but 2 of them get through. You know, it's just crazy the amount of crap they do wrong, and that's scary every single day. you know, and you look at Pam Bondi, she's clueless, you know,
Bonnie
Pete,
the Clown. Bonnie the Clown. That's what we
Pistol,
call her here.
Pistol Pete running the, the Department of War, you know, he, he's more of a frat boy that should be, funneling a 12 pack, you know, but yet he's in charge. Um,
Quite amazing.
no,
The you'd think, especially the when you think of the Department of War, that title, you would think like a very stern, respectable man of courage and strength and all that. And yeah, Hegseth. I mean, he talks shit and and he looks slick, but I mean, just remember when he went full metal Hegseth and he had that he gathered all the military leaders and he was basically telling everyone that they're fat and need to shave and stuff like that. I mean, there's a way to do things, right? And he just goes along with that attitude, that general attitude of the Trump administration. We'll piss on you and tell you it's raining, and you'll enjoy it, kind of thing.
yeah, absolutely. And, they have one barometer of, where you fit in, and that's your amount of loyalty.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that not only the amount of loyalty, but consistency, because it seems like the second, especially with Trump anyways, the second that loyalty runs out or appears to have run out or has switched, he just shoots and then asks questions later, right?
Well, and the minute you have no more value to him, he will throw you overboard like in a blink of an eye. He is very transactional, and that's what's scary. And you know, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen when he's gone or when it gets down. I would imagine the voting this year, the November election will be, very telling. I mean, if it consistently goes the way it's been going, and in theory, he should lose the Senate, probably maybe the House, but if it keeps going as bad as it's going for him, he could lose both, maybe, or at least the House. And that, you would hope that would at least put a little bit of a break on what he's doing. I don't know.
I mean, he did a conference or a interview or something yesterday or the day before, and he was talking about the election and the idea that he might get impeached. So he's already dropping that, and he dropped like a comment like I forget what he said, but he said something along the lines of, we may have to cancel the elections, and he just kind of slid it in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, sometimes that's how he works too. He plants that seed, and then eventually he talks about it later.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. Sometimes he'll be asked about something, and he'll say, I don't want to talk about that right now. So it's like, well, he's cooking something in that pot then. So something's up, right?
Well, there's always something up. Much
Yeah.
like the first term when he said, in 2 weeks, I'm going to have you the best insurance plan ever. Still hadn't come. I mean, he's transactional. He will, like right now, if he was talking to you, he would tell you whatever you or your readers or your listeners wanted to hear, and he wouldn't worry about the consequences because he's only worried about this transaction. He's not worried about when people, hey, you said, the sun is not hot, and you show it back to him, and he'll look at it. It's not what I said. It's not what I meant. You're out of context.
Yeah.
It is bizarre.
And then he'll ask you, what company you're with or who you're with, and then he'll just make fun of them and start shooting his mouth off.
And why that is okay is beyond me. I mean, why that,
especially in the office like that,
right?
Not setting good precedent at all.
No, it's horrible.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. I mean, I'm Canadian, but Yeah, I still don't like it.
I did a podcast with a couple Canadians a couple months ago. Can't remember their show, but they were more Trump supporters, and they were it was right about when
Was it Grimerica?
yes.
Ah, yeah, right on.
The
Shout
two
out
guys.
Canada boys, Grimerica, yeah.
Yeah, that was who it was. And it was right when who was y'all's? It was Trudeau, right? Was that y'all's guy? That was
Yeah, we had Trudeau. He was our celebrity.
well. It was right when he was. It was right when that transition was going on, and I was shocked at how much disdain they had for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's no good either. He's
Well, I don't know much in this,
yeah.
and they were teaching me a little bit about Canada's relationship with guns, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, they know a lot, those guys. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's awesome. What about how familiar are you with Doge and what they may have accomplished and your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know what. Again, I they said they were going to save us trillions of
Said
dollars,
a lot of things, right?
and then you really can't pinpoint where they saved us $20 million. They canceled a lot of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that's I don't know that I saved money if I said, if I came to my house and I just showed up here and this is where I live and I'm trying to save money and run my house better. I don't know if I just said I'm gonna cancel the newspaper. I'm gonna cancel the internet. I'm gonna cancel, all the streaming services. If I don't have anything at my house, did I really save money or am I living a different life? I mean, the fact that you fired people, is that, I mean, how do you fire somebody that you don't even do any kind of evaluation of their merit before you fire?
Because
Right.
didn't they have to hire so many people back too?
Oh,
And for the people they didn't hire back, there seemed to have been a lot of consequences to that.
and
So
and who knows about of dropping the USA, I mean the stuff that he's eliminated with that, there's kids all over the world that are dying because of that. There's AIDS, things in Africa that aren't getting the meds they need. It's just, I don't know. But yet we can go put all our boats off the coast of Venezuela, which, every penny saved, just that act alone for a month has probably spent 100 times the amount of money that those saved.
Yeah, the amount that goes into military, unbelievable. And now he wants to expand with Greenland. So, and that's another thing, right? Like it was planted a while back, along with the idea of making Canada the 51st state. But now the Greenland seed has sprouted and it's starting to grow. And now there's a lot of talk and articles and chatter going around in the sphere. And it's becoming a thing, whether or not it'll happen or not. But I mean,
I don't know how you take a country that doesn't want you. I don't know how you do that. I mean, I don't know why that is acceptable. It's the exact same thing. We have a problem with Russia. We have a problem with what China's doing. I just don't get it. I don't get how we could do that. How do you just go take Greenland?
I don't know the answer to that, but here's an article I found today. Analysts say the Cold War agreement allows the president to increase the American military presence almost at will. And then here's an interesting photo of an old World War II base.
That's our little base right there. Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, you just know that he has these people working for him that are just going through all these old agreements and treaties and historical documents, uh, and he's going to try to use whatever he can. So let's see here. Under a little-known Cold War agreement, the United States already enjoys sweeping military access in Greenland. Right now, the U.S. has one base in a very remote corner of the island, but the agreement allows it to construct, install, maintain, and operate military bases across Greenland, house personnel, and control landings, takeoffs, anchorages, moorings, movements, and operation of ships, aircraft, and waterborne craft. It was signed in 1951 by the U.S. and Denmark, which colonized Greenland more than 300 years ago and still controls some of its affairs. So it also quoted, the U.S. has such a free hand in Greenland that it can pretty much do whatever it wants, says Mikkel Rung Olesen, a researcher at the Danish Institute for International Studies in Copenhagen. I have a very hard time seeing that the U.S. couldn't get pretty much everything it wanted, he said, if it just asked nicely.
Absolutely. Why didn't it just go say, hey, we want to put a bigger Air Force base, or we want 6 bases rather than 1? They wouldn't turn it. That's the bottom line is we haven't even opened discussions with them.
Yeah, he just says like he's going. It started from we need it for national security. We need it for national security, and we'll take it if we have to. And then it comes out that Rubio says well, Trump would really prefer to buy it, but he'll take it if he wants to. And it's like some of these actions, like the whether these documents say what they purport to say. I mean, these actions like the Greenland, Maduro in Venezuela, they set just wild precedent, it seems.
Yeah.
Especially the Maduro thing when it comes to, I mean, just look. You were talking about China and Taiwan. What does that mean for them? Can Putin go and grab Zelensky and it's fine? Can any country go collect on the warrant and grab Netanyahu? Like what is the future going to hold with these precedents that are going down? Like, and the exchange of land. It's just wild. It's truly wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's how do you find common ground when we have problems with what they're doing when we're worse? I mean, it's really hard to tell. At least Putin can make an argument that those were our people. I mean, all we can say is, we think Maduro was selling drugs in our country. I mean, my God, the difference and the hypocrisy of what we did is just overwhelming, and it makes it fun to hey, watch this space. Let's see what happens. How we get through this. Every other country we tried to build, every other nation building we've done has bit us on the ass. Not one time have we been able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, look at Iraq and the countries.
Afghanistan, nobody likes us.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, with Afghanistan, look, they were supposed to stop the opium with Afghanistan. Like, I mean, how did that work out?
Never does.
No.
Yeah.
So
you come in with these great ideas, but the thing is, I mean, when he's gone, it will revert. Assuming that he doesn't hand off to his next in line. If it's JD is Trump light. But still, I don't think anybody can come along with his power. For some reason, he can do anything wrong. Nobody holds it against him, and he has the ability to just take somebody down at their knees. Like if he can primary his people. He has them so afraid. All these people, both the Senate and the House, none of them have the balls to do what they were elected to do. they've all long, they've long lost, their character and their ability just to do what's right. I mean, exact reasons, not the new ones. Now, the new MAGA people have run totally. You watch the TV down here in Texas. I mean, we get people doing political ads. They put on there 100% with Trump. I mean, how sad is that? I want to know what you want.
Yeah, because we don't, because like, who knows what Trump even wants other than
Right. Trump
what
doesn't
he's
know what he
currently
wants.
working on, right?
But that's how they are. And that's, John Cornyn. I just saw his latest ads. He's all over the Trump thing again. Thune out of our head of the Senate, man. I thought he was actually, I'd always liked John Thune as a human being. I always was impressed with him, and he's just such a follower. Johnson, with the House, he's a joke, but the House is a mess. I mean, you got to love it when the voice of reason in the Republican Party is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay.
You got to just go, wow, how did she become the one that doesn't seem like she's living in the nut house?
I know, right?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, but you see her interviews now. She makes sense. I mean, granted, everything's relative, but it is what it is. I mean, it's horrible.
So let's see here. I was going to ask you what you think's going to happen with the Maduro trial. I just wanted to add, it's come out now. I just want to read something from a post Ryan Dawson put out. So Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's trial will be presided over by Jewish Judge Alvin Hellerstein, who's 92. He was also assigned to oversee almost all 9/11 related civil lawsuits, including one in which he encouraged the families of 96 victims who questioned the failures in airline and airport security to take settlement money instead of taking the case to public trial. According to the New York Times, Judge Hellerstein acknowledged that this resulted in a loss of information to the public. A trial would have exposed a large body of internal documents and depositions to public light before a jury. One of the victims' families stated that Hellerstein gutted the case so the truth about what led to the events of 9/11 would never be told at trial. So it's crazy that like we still have judges that are like freaking 92. I don't know.
That's crazy.
I don't know what you think about that. Yeah. But so this guy's a Zionist as well. So he's probably in with Netanyahu or something like that. So then he's probably who's going to pull the strings on Trump. So do you see this being like essentially a slam dunk for Trump and getting in the States and getting this guy in, or what do you think's going to going to happen?
Yeah, I think that, the die is cast. I think the cement's already dry. I think they'll make sure they can roll over him, and they'll control everything. And yeah, I don't think he has much of a chance to do. But again, in the big picture, it doesn't matter. That what Maduro's fate is not what the problem is. He's done. He's already been taken away. He's never going to get out of the jail. Well, under this president, he's not. Hell, we might bring the next one in, and they let him go. Although I seriously doubt anybody would pardon Maduro. He's been horrible. He's very similar to Noriega, just running over his country. No different than Little Kim and Putin. Just the way they're getting all the benefits, and they're shitting on the people. But in the big picture, I don't even think what's going on with Nicolas Maduro is the issue. What's going on with us taking over the country? This is a sideshow. The courtroom.
It is really, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It shows Venezuela and what's happening there.
Right. What goes on in that courtroom is just stupid. it is just, it's a sitcom. I mean, the reality of it is, because, and here's why it's not Maduro. It's not about getting a narco terrorist off the street. Because if it is, the one thing I'm pretty sure of, if he's in a jail in New York, he's off the street. We don't need to be running his country and having all those boats, out there on the coast.
Right. It
Because
just doesn't
because
add up.
well, because 9 out of 10 times when you go somewhere to fix a problem, once you fix the problem, you leave, you know? Unless that's not the real problem or that wasn't the goal, which clearly that's the situation here. That's what I'm saying. Nicolas Maduro, he's going to be convicted and we're going to get whatever we want, a billion years and what have you, or enough to let him die in jail if that's what we want. But the reality, that's not the story here. That's in the who cares category,
I think another distraction that I think is kind of in his Trump's pocket is partying P. Diddy. I feel like that's why he hasn't done it yet, but I think if he is, he's going to just wait until things have calmed down to a certain point and then just throw gasoline on the fire with that. What are your thoughts on the P. Diddy case? I mean, I think that's a guy like that, I feel like he's clearly guilty of those crimes. It's interesting the crimes that the charges that they actually did bring forward, and it's interesting the charges that stuck. Obviously, it wasn't the big ones,
right? Racketeering and sex trafficking. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, the thing about that is the whole P. Diddy thing was, it seemed like it was a little overcharged from the government. And even if he pardons him, I mean, he's been in over 2 years now, right? Isn't it getting close to 2 years either side?
Yeah.
So he's only going to do 50 months. So, he got 50 months, but because he got over, he's
got to do it soon, I guess.
Yeah, he's got to do most of that. So he's got to do 86%. So at 50 months, so that's literally 8.5 months times 5. So he's only got to do 43 months. So
wow, okay. So
yeah, you get if with good time you only have to do 86% in the federal system. The way it works, you get I think you get of every 8 days you get a 1 day free. So ultimately, so in theory, I mean, doesn't have to happen, but it could. I know when that's why when we've had a couple situations that's over a term. Like, for example, I was in federal court not last year, and we had a case where the judge was going to give a year punishment. Well, you want him to give him a year and a day, because at a year you don't get that benefit. So you get a year and a day, now you get less. But that's because of the So long story short, I don't even know the benefit of a pardon now. He's not in there that much longer, so it's not that big of a deal either way. And the government, they were a little over aggressive what they have, and I still, I've tried to follow it as much as I could. I mean, it just took so long and it was so confusing. But so many of these people, could have run off. I mean, these, you keep, they just kept taking it. I'm sorry. Yeah. If I'm just hanging out with a bad person and he's, the carrot, the carrot is the money.
Yeah. Obviously, he's a terrible person, a criminal in some sort of another, but absolutely, like, that's how I felt too. A lot of these people could have just left.
Absolutely could have left. The bottom line is, if I'm told, hey, I've got to participate if I'm going to get in the jet, if I'm going to fly across the world to go to this party or do this freaky stuff that he wants me to do, if I don't do it, I don't get to go back. Well, I'm sorry, choose not to do it and don't get on the plane the next time. I mean, it's like, this one's an easy one. This like goes back to what my grandmother used to always tell me: you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. It's that simple. And they knew what they were. The stuff I watched, I was so offended by the people. they stayed around, you know, and I granted they all said they were afraid. Afraid of what? You know,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I mean, like, if it was something like you're afraid of him hurting you, just like, make the police aware and stay away from him. If it's like you're afraid, like, what was it, Cassie, like, afraid that, oh, he's not going to, he's going to end my career. I mean, if you're that good of a singer and everything, like, can't you go to another company and say, hey, I'm on Bad Boy Records, but I'm willing to sign somewhere else?
yeah,
And
you would think.
yeah, you would think that there's a way to get, but with that carrot, then, and them taking the carrot, it to me, it feels like, to an extent, there's some willingness there to participate.
Oh, I agree with you. That's what I thought, and that's why I think they found not guilty on all those counts. You know, I mean, they just, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, P. Diddy's a bad person. The stuff he influenced you to do, and the way he held money over your head and threatened you about your career, yeah, that's all true. But you know, you could extricate yourself from that situation like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, now, I mean, it'd be great if it could have been handled better. I mean, I don't know. I'm not too familiar with what charges they should have brought or whatever, but it's unfortunate because when he comes out, I'm sure there's obviously enough people there that still support him, but there'll be more and more people that will sway to accept him back in the limelight.
I think so.
I
I don't think he's going to
surprised.
be a pariah by any stretch. I think he's going to be right back in the middle of it. I mean, obviously, he's still got a boatload of money. You
Yeah.
know, you know, he's not going anywhere. You know,
Exactly.
it'll be really entertaining to see what he does do. You know,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you know, because I mean, all these other people, and nowadays, you know, there's the difference between the people with money and without money. The chasm's getting huger, and the people with money are just more and more vulgar and boisterous about what they have, and just like, you know, it's like, hey, I got money, I'm good. You know, we're seeing it with Trump and all his little cronies, and you know, they got money. That's all they need.
Yeah. What about what are your thoughts with what's been going on with the Epstein files and the Epstein case? Are you kind of up to date with that? Um, I mean, there's obviously been the more files have been released, more pictures have been released, but now they're saying that they found, like, millions of more files.
Yeah.
Um, and what are your thoughts on, like, Thomas Massey? He's another one that, is kind of at the forefront of pushing for these files to come out.
Yeah, you know, I agree. I think they should all come out. I think they should all come out. You know, I think the only redactions should be to protect the victims.
Yeah.
And clearly, there's a lot of other redactions on the stuff that DOJ let out is highly redacted. They're acting. They're clearly they're doing what Trump tells them to do. I mean, and he's slow playing it. He's putting out. They're making sure they put out the things about, the Democrats, the Clintons. I'm so sick of hearing the Clinton stuff.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of
We
hearing
know about it. We know. We get it. We know.
I'm sick of sleepy Joe Biden. I'm sorry. Joe Biden's not, the reason why my groceries are expensive right now. It's just enough. But yeah, he's going to do his thing, and, nobody stops him. So, eventually the stuff will get out, maybe the next president.
Do you think, in your opinion, is this like, are they just milking this? Are they moving, like, exceedingly slow on this? And
they're just not doing it. Yeah, they're just not, yeah. It's just not something they want to deal with, It's like when they passed that law and he signed that law, he knew well it didn't matter what he signed. When they put out the law and he signed it, like, he could have bowed up then and made him, come back and override his veto. But he knew that he could get it on the backside. He can still control anything he wants. It doesn't matter. That's why there's no materials that, every now and again there's a little bit of a splash, but that came from the Epstein estate, those ones that were offensive.
yes, Yes.
None of this stuff is from DOJ is splashed on Trump. That's just splashing on, the Clintons and, Bill Clinton and all the bad stuff he does, which who cares? My God, he's been out of the limelight and, him and Hillary both have kind of gone by the wayside.
Yeah, yeah. Hillary's kind of fallen out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Do
Trump
you,
doesn't let it go, man. He just doesn't.
no, he's not a guy to let it go. He's not.
No.
And then, yeah, I wonder what's going to happen as well with Ghislaine Maxwell. I wonder if she's going to get out. I don't know if there's ever been. Let's see if there's any new news. No.
And I
Nothing new.
don't think he's going to let her out. She's got it pretty good, but he may. I don't think he's going to do it right now. There's a lot too much heat on him, and I don't think he'll do anything. Well, I keep saying I don't think he'll do anything crazy stupid before the midterms, but he keeps doing stuff crazy stupid every other day. So, he could let her go at the end of his term. But I don't know why he would. I don't know what the benefit of it is. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what the benefit of half the stuff he does is, I don't know who he I don't know.
It could just be more backroom access or more money under the table.
Yeah, and money. That's the easy place to go with Trump. That's the easy thing to do with Trump is to try to just always follow the money.
Mm-hmm. What about the obviously the terrible killing of Charlie Kirk? We were talking about him earlier as well. What are your thoughts on that case? Are you familiar with the quote unquote facts that have been released and everything like that?
Just what I see in the news. I don't read a lot of the backboard stuff. I just mainstream on that. I see a lot of stuff that Erica posts. I see a lot of stuff, and like I said, I wasn't a big Charlie Kirk follower. I think it's horrible that somebody shot somebody because of their ideology, and I think it's ridiculous. And that person should, be obviously they're talking about going for the death penalty. I mean, Trump wants them to go for the death penalty, so we'll see what happens.
What is this a type of case that you might take on?
Oh, I'd take on any case. I mean, I often joke, I have one client, the Constitution of this great country, so I don't have a problem with representing anybody. And now, obviously, if you hurt one of my friends or family, I might not help you because that's personal. But, unless it was personal, I would defend, any crime, because at the end of the day, people, if the system works, somebody is treated with respect, treated with dignity, and given a fair trial. And once they have that, whatever the punishment, does, so be it. Makes my neighborhood as safe as it makes your neighborhood. So I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure the government can't take shortcuts, can't cheat or lie, and my person's treated fairly. And once that happens, the world's a better place for all of us. It's looking like that's the problem with what the government's doing right now. They're picking and choosing who they're going, like, going after these, certain, Democrats for the mortgage fraud stuff. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely crazy. When, when they're showing that, Trump and others have done the exact same thing, tons of,
They just need to start putting people away and cracking down on it and actually doing something about it. I think it's great that it's coming out and everything, but I mean, both sides are doing it, so both sides should be held accountable.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, the rules are the rules. I mean, and that's the way it should be. And that's Lady Justice holding the scales of justice. Has a blindfold on because justice is supposed to be blind, and unfortunately, it's not anymore. Maybe it hadn't been forever. I don't know, but I've always thought it was fair. And you know what? And still locally, I think more times than not, it is fair. I think where I work is fair. I don't think that it, the only time, people with money get treated better is because they have a better lawyer who works harder. I mean, that's always going to be the situation. I mean, that goes down to the meals you eat, the size house you live in, how pretty your yard looks, based on, money and how much you're willing to spend. So I'm not really offended by that, because I know the people that pay me and pay the big freight, we're going to work hard. We're going to dot every I, and we're going to obviously do a lot better of a job than a lawyer that might be younger and not charge as much money or know what they're doing or put in the time. So, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's when the actual people are treated different because of their social status or their tie to power. That's when it's bad.
So before we wrap up, I'd like to get into just a few, I guess, kind of general things. Can you maybe just give us your perspective on how you feel the justice system operates in the United States?
What do you mean?
I mean, honestly, that can mean anything you want it to mean. Like, generally, is it fair?
Absolutely. It's totally fair. I mean,
Okay.
the justice system is the best in the world. There are problems, much like any other system anywhere. Does it treat African Americans worse than it treats whites? Absolutely. When you look at the percentages of African Americans in our country at 9%, and yet they're 40% of the people in jail in our country. Well, that's obviously, there's an answer there. Does it mean that people treat Black people, worse? I don't know that. I don't know what it means. Could it mean that, with the socioeconomic problems of the Black community, are they unable to get the lawyers to do the good jobs? It could be any of these answers, but overall, does our system have problems? Of course it does. Every system has problems, getting the kids on the school bus in the morning, can have some, flies in the ointment, but it doesn't mean you don't put them on the bus the next day. So the reality of it is, yeah, we've got the best system in the world, but there's problems with it. Is justice administered equally to everybody? No, not as much. Is it in the small communities? Well, even Houston, I work in a big community of Houston, Texas, and I work in a smaller one in Galveston, Texas. Seems to me like it's, everybody's treated pretty fairly. Um, you might get some advantage because somebody knows somebody occasionally, but it's not where you walk in and go, this is just unjust. I've never once thought it was unjust. Now, when you look on the news and you see some of the things that go down and some of the people that, got benefit because of who they are or who they know, yeah, that's going to happen. That's life. But the system's great. In Texas, we're lucky down here. We have we're allowed jury trials. There's some places in our country that don't get jury trials. We could get jury trials for guilt, innocence. We can get jury trials for punishment. Down here in state court. So we've got it pretty good.
Where in do you know where in the States there's no jury trials, and what is meant by that? Like,
well, no, sometimes you can have a jury punish you, but the judge, you can have a jury to do in some states at misdemeanor levels, and for punishment that goes back to the judge.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm saying we can have juries do anything, down here. Not every state has jury punishment. And there's some DWI lawyers that I know that, because DWIs are misdemeanors, that have never had a jury trial, on a DWI because, states don't have jury trials on misdemeanors. Not every state. Texas, we've got it all. We can have a jury trial. I can have a jury trial on a speeding ticket if I want.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. We've got it good down here.
Honestly, I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I mean, so it's like it's an option, right? You can like for example, for a traffic ticket, like I would think that would be like an option, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to happen every day, and my God, it's way too expensive to pay a lawyer $5,000 to go fight a, $175 ticket. But
Yeah.
you'd be amazed. Sometimes people are so frustrated and they have their axe to grind. And, all it takes to grind an axe is money in an axe grinder.
Yeah, man, for sure.
You know?
Are you sorry, excuse me. What's your thought on innocence fraud? I've had people come on the show and talk about innocence fraud. They've cited cases like Stephen Avery from Making a Murderer, Karen Reed, Reuben the Hurricane Carter, also, yeah, all sorts. So, like, these people that they're convicted. Usually they're convicted and then they kind of get released on the false sense that they're innocent. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I think we're making something that's not a problem here. I mean, obviously, like, making of a murder, was an interesting deal. And I know those lawyers, the ones that handled it originally, and they did.
Oh yeah, those are like the most interesting ones on the show, actually. Yeah.
And they took some crap for that. They didn't dot every I, cross every T at the time. And you come back in here and maybe there is something to it. I don't know that when somebody is let go in hindsight, it is such a hard system to appeal through. It happens such a low percentage of the time. Maybe every now and again something does get found out that should have been found out. I don't have a problem with any of those. If you're going to go all through the system, and the arguments made by the government is, hey, it's in the past, we don't have the witnesses like we have, blah blah blah, and all that. And that's a great argument, and that's one of the reasons why the rules are so tough to overturn and the rulings are so hard to overturn. But ultimately, there have been shortcuts taken in the past, and we do need to grade their papers. I don't think it's a problem in the sense that it doesn't happen that often. And I know when somebody's been in jail for a murder or something, they get out on, you say a technicality, you hear that term used, but that's so offensive. Trampling somebody's constitutional rights, there's nothing technical about that. There is nothing technical about, stomping on somebody's constitutional rights. So I don't see it as an issue that some people do. I mean, you know what, more, it basically implies to me that some lawyers, some people that are smart did some really good work, because the system has so many obstacles along the way that if they did take a person that's in jail for life, like a Reuben Carter, and got him out, it's shocking how many. This wasn't just, hey, one brief filed and all of a sudden, okay, Carter, you're out, get your stuff. No, there was like 100 obstacles to jump through, and the government had every chance to knock them down. And if they can get through that, quagmire, that minefield, more power to them. Must have been right.
Fair enough. I guess my final question would be, or actually, can you maybe share a case? Do you have any interesting cases that involved forensic evidence that might be interesting to hear about?
Well, I've had I've had a couple with that I've gotten a lot of, it's shocking how, most of my forensics where there's really a lot of, evidence that matters comes to, from DWI cases. I'll tell you a great story one time. So I had a guy who had been to the pen a couple times and also had a boatload of DWIs. So we were trying a case where our guy was 25 to life. Okay. And they had him on a DWI, and his blood was 3 times the legal limit. But he looked good. He literally looked good, and there was no way that he was, 3 times the legal limit. So anyway, this was right when blood started coming out, and Amber, my partner, and I, we had, taken this class in Chicago, and we had been certified by the American Chemical Society as a lawyer scientist. So we really knew our stuff. So we kept pushing the lab to give us, all this stuff and doing all this discovery. We were trying to figure out what was going on. They kept providing us all this stuff, and we had it all. We had some things in there that we kind of liked, but because it was right when blood was becoming more a deal, they brought in the lead chemist. They brought in the guy, not just the chemist, but they brought in the lab director, because they knew Amber and I knew our stuff, and the government really hadn't caught up to blood. We were just switching where blood was occasional to where blood was really starting to come in. So we have this guy on, and we're going through these records, and Amber was questioning him, and bottom line, lab notes are a lot like doctor notes. Wherever you see handwriting, wherever the doctor stopped to write something, you need to figure out what that's about. It's important. If they took notes, why did they take it? So we're going through this stuff, and we've got, they've given us all this discovery, probably 10,000 pages. So this guy's name was Derek Sanders, still one of my favorite guys in the history of my entire career. One of my favorite people. I still send him a Christmas card, and when he's back in town, that we became friends. He moved out got a bigger lab, but anyway, so he's on the stand, and we're going through everything, and we're going through the notes with him, and Amber shows him, said, "Look right here, it says the auto sampler got stuck." And this is a black dude. He almost turns white, and he looks, I'm still sitting at the table. Amber's questioning him, showing him this thing. And he says, I see you got my discovery. Hand me that. And he points over, and he's pointing to the metadata. And we hand him the metadata, and he's flipping through it. And he looks back up, and he says, this guy is literally, this is the middle of a trial. I mean, these moments never happen. This only happens in Madlock. He literally says, that blood's no good. And we go, "What do you mean it's no good?" He goes, "Well, you can see here the auto sampler stopped." I said, "Yeah, we see that, but it also said that the thing ran." He goes, "It did run." I said, "Then," we said, "why is it no good?" And he goes, "Well, when you go to the metadata, which you wouldn't have known how to go to, it shows that." So the way blood works, they put it in the little vials and they test it. So when they walk out of the building, they push go. So it's going to test 48 samples that night while they leave. So this particular time, our sample was like the 12th one. Right before it got there, the auto sampler locked up. So that happens. They leave at 6 o'clock. So at 6:15, that locks up. So they came back in at 8 in the morning. It was locked up, much like a TV. They went over. Remember, I used to hit TVs to make them come back in. So they hit the machine at 8 in the morning, and it started back up. It unlocked and it went going. Well, the important thing was our sample was the next one. So it had sat in the hot machine and literally cooked all night. And that's why it was no good. So basically, much like wine, it was fermenting.
Yep.
And he literally said that blood right there, that vial that we tested, sat there in the auto sampler, warming up for 12 straight hours or 14 hours, whatever it was, because that blood is no good. That needs to be retested. We were in the middle of trial, couldn't. So ultimately, the state should have dumped the case on the spot, but tried to get it in on the rest of it. This is a felony, 25 to life. Jury came back in under 10 minutes, not guilty.
Wow. Wow, man, that's wild. Woo. Yeah. What did that feel like? I guess that was pretty wild.
Best ever. And what was crazy about it, see, it was also being tried. They offered us 14 years, even though 25 was the minimum. But we had our conversation with our client. There was a McNeely issue at the time, which basically meant that the government, they had written a statute that said, hey, the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply when it's a felony. We can just take your blood automatically. So they had automatically taken our client's blood. We had a feeling that the Supreme Court was going to change that. So our guy, we weren't going to take the 14. We were expecting to lose. So we thought we'd lose, then win on appeal, and then keep the blood out. But this was kind of a nice little change of pace, because we knew that. Then the law did change. McNeely was the issue at this Supreme Court. Basically said, look, you can't just take somebody's blood without a search warrant. You just can't do it. And they were doing it at the time. They were saying, you're charged with a felony, we're going to take your blood. Well, no, you're not. Hey, just because you're charged with a felony doesn't mean the Constitution gets to sit on the sidelines. So that was our reasoning for trying it. But it was really nice that Derek Sanders came through for us.
And sorry, can you share what was the crime again? Like, what were the charges that?
This was a DWI case, but he had been charged for burglary when he was a child, and also some other.
Yep.
So he'd already had 2 PIM trips.
Okay.
So by having 2 PIM trips, even though this was just a DWI,
it was like a third strike rule.
Third strike rule in Texas, yeah. So he's looking at 25 minimum.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good day for us. Really good day for him.
Yeah, I guess so, man. Absolutely. That's crazy. Thanks for sharing that story. That's wild. Final question I'd just like to ask you. I'm sure a lot of people would like to know your opinion on how television and Hollywood crime dramas and all that stuff, how they get things right or wrong. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you watch a lot of TV.
Yeah, I watch a lot of like lawyer shows. I mean, they get a lot wrong. I mean, for one, there's never a gotcha moment. They just don't happen. Trials other than this one with Derek.
Oh, you had one kind of.
I've had one in 20 and I've had one in 35 years. But they don't really happen. They really don't happen that often. Trials. Or because trial lawyers work their ass off preparing. They go in there loaded for bear, knowing their questions. That's the one thing that they really get wrong. I like them as much as the next guy. I love watching the scenes, but there is no gotcha moment. Trials aren't they're not as exciting. The majority of the trial, when you got the victim in there, or if it's a gunfight or something, it can get entertaining, but they're just grinds like everything else in this world. My dad always told me there's a direct correlation in between how hard you work and what you get. And that definitely true for a trial lawyer.
Fair enough. That's I mean, I enjoy, even though I assume that like not everything's too accurate. I enjoy a good crime drama, or I'm on and off with true crime. I enjoy true crime, but I prefer like detective.
Yeah.
I'm a classic movie guy, so I like 1940s, 50s, 60s, and some 70s.
Well, you need to go. You need to watch Injustice for All, one of the best lawyer movies there is.
Al Pacino. Oh my God. And Jeffrey Tambor. Oh my God, my friend Jack Warden. Good.
He's the best. He went past the halfway point.
So good.
Yeah.
It's got the obviously it has that famous quote at the end. You're out of order. Everyone's out of order. But I mean, that movie is so good because not only is it like a great watch, but it like aspects of it are so funny.
Yeah.
But there's also some aspects of it that are like, quite touching and
oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that is a great movie. Very, very young Al Pacino. I love Injustice for All. That's a great film for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Tad, this has been quite the conversation. I've really enjoyed myself. Before we go, though, can you let everyone know if where you'd like to direct them, where they can find you, maybe on social media?
We are all over social media at Tad Nelson, or you can find us on our website, www.tadlaw, TADLAW. Easy to find. If you need anything, we're always here. reach out to us. We'd love to help somebody, if even they just have questions, want to talk.
Beautiful. Right on. Well, thank you again for coming on, Tad. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Everyone, make sure to check out Tad's website. Check him out on social media. Also, please make sure everyone to subscribe to the Divulgence podcast on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify, or wherever you get your audio podcasts. And thanks to everyone in the chat, all the viewers, listeners. Tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. We've got Flat Earth Dave coming on. Tad, thanks again, my friend. This has been quite a pleasure. Take care of yourself.